Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Reign Over Your Life podcast. I'm at Krystal and I'm so excited you're here today. I bring on an important figure in my healing journey. His name is Dr. Yoder. I first found Dr. Yoder when I was 9 weeks pregnant and going through a really heavy time of a surprise, unplanned pregnancy amidst early into the COVID experience we all went through, while also at a standstill in a divorce due to COVID. The court systems were shut down, and I was trying to really navigate and get through this journey that I was on in this moment of my life. And looking back and reflecting now, I have so much compassion for myself. I have so much admiration for the courage and perseverance that I had to just stand up, ask for help, stay committed to my mission of healing. And I look back and I'm so proud of all the growth that came from that moment in my life. And I'm bringing on Dr. Yoder because he was a huge advocate early into my pregnancy for me to begin my trauma recovery work, to dive deeper into somatic healing and understanding the relationship my body was having with holding trauma and energy, and really supported me and was just always a safe space for me to come and have deeper conversations. And what's important is when we have these mentors in our life and these teachers, they provide like a mirror in which we can reflect back and see different perspectives of ourselves, of the situations that we may not be able to see because we're fully in the emotions, we're fully in the body. So we talk a lot about that in this episode and in this discussion that you're about to hear with Dr. Yoder. He is a very holistic practitioner who embodies the best of both Western and Eastern medicine and really infuses that into his chiropractic care. And I see Dr. Yoder, I've been seeing him, since I was 9 weeks pregnant. So for over 2 years, he's been my holistic practitioner. I see him for chiropractic care. We do a lot of Ayurvedic muscle testing. He does sound healing. He does infrared light therapy and so much more. He's really what's gotten me into chanting, into connecting with my heart, and into activating my vagus nerve. If you see me posting on socials, I share a lot as I do this daily vagus nerve stimulation. And what that does is it helps regulate my nervous system and bring me back into a sense of safety through stimulating the vagus nerve. So Dr. Yoder is super passionate about the vagus nerve. And we were planning on talking like really heavy into vagus nerve. And then we got so sidetracked with me talking about my experience on The Bachelor with trauma and moments like the mic drop moment that I had with Bibiana, and what trauma response was happening in my body. And so we actually went there, which I wasn't really planning on, but I just felt that this is where the conversation needed to go. And as part of my healing journey, I really have compassion for just self honoring where my heart is leading me to explore and uncover. And anytime I'm with Dr. Yoder and in a safe space to have that healing and that conversation, I always feel very carried. So I'm really excited for you guys to listen to our conversation. And if you want to find Dr. Yoder, if you're here in San Diego, I'm going to link his information below in the show notes. You can click and go find him. He's an amazing, amazing healer. And I'm really privileged to bring him on the podcast. So before I dive into the conversation, I just want to give a quick weekly recap because, as you know, we just started doing these because this podcast, I'm here to document my own journey, my healing, my recovery, and share the modalities that I'm learning and practicing and what's working and what's not. Because, I want to be clear, I'm not trying to be this teacher. I'm trying to be just a girl who wants to reign over her life and wants to break generational trauma and fucking free herself and live a life of the life I'm meant to live, the life of fear and shame and none of that stuff existed. Like, who would I be in my full embodiment of my truest self? And that's my mission. And that is the purpose of my life, and those are the caliber of guests that we're bringing on, and so that's what you're going to hear today. And this past week I've been setting boundaries between work and life balance, and I've been carving out windows where I'm taking the time to not only learn about these modalities but to actually apply them. And how I've built that into my daily routine is in the morning I usually go for a walk if I'm not in yoga, or I'll typically get outside with the doggies, and I listen to my Audible books or the courses that I'm taking. And specifically right now, they're about trauma, about somatic healing, and learning about the vagus nerve, which is why I wanted to have Dr. Yoder on. And then in the evening, I'm carving out these windows where I'm actually applying the tools. So I'm applying the somatic healing. I'm learning about shaking, vagus nerve stimulation. I'm journaling, I'm tapping, I'm meditating, and I'm just breathing in my body, focusing on creating stillness where I'm getting out of that mind, ego, that mental chatter, and I'm just being still within. Because as we learned last week in the podcast with Carrie Smith, the co-founder of the Awakening Trainings, it's when we're in that stillness that we're able to actually recognize the patterns that we're in. And those are the patterns that are keeping us stuck. Those are the negative loops that we keep finding ourselves in, having these tantrums like as adults, and finding ourselves just getting back in these negative loops. Those are just patterns that are running us. And when we can become the silent observer, when we can breathe and create safety, when we can come from a place of curiosity and inquisition into identifying, having that awareness, and oh, that's not me, that's just me being activated and looping into this pattern. Remember, we are not our patterns. We're so much more. So that's why this work is so important. So, anyways, I'm ready to dive into this conversation and let you guys hear it. So, without further ado, welcome to the podcast, Dr. Yoder. Hey, Dr. Yoder, welcome to the podcast. So happy to have you here today.
Good afternoon, Krystal. Thank you. I'm honored to be here with you and your audience. I know you attract a large audience, and it's mostly for females, but my clientele is mostly female, so I think I'll have some juicy stuff for you and your audience.
Yeah, well, I'm so happy to have you here. And, you're our second guest on the Reign of Your Life podcast. And this first, as we're like now transitioning into this stage of, my journey and the podcast, I'm really committed to taking people on a healing journey with me, to invite them to really begin exploring where in their life they can create more safety, where they're perhaps running programs, and where they can really like break free and just build a beautiful, authentic life for themselves. And so I want to open up and ask you, where in your life are you committed to currently reigning over?
Yes, great question. So I think the current project I'm working on is helping people to realize that there's a better, greater version of themselves, and offering a template so they can upgrade their nerve system, their mind, their body. And that, since it's a template, if you just kind of follow the prescription, it's easy and accessible for any and all of us. So you don't have to feel overwhelmed. There's literally like a blueprint for how to get from A to B. And so I want to share some of those tips and tricks with you guys, some biohacks. And in particular, I would say why that's meaningful to me is creating heart memories. And we'll describe a little bit more what a heart memory is. But basically, we have like brain memory. So we all went to school, but can you recall the subject information from your third grade math test?
Absolutely not. No, why was I even taught math in third grade?
I don't even want to go there. My math teacher in third grade was this retired Army lady, and she was just really wicked mean. But it was just like, okay, just get it done, like memorize, regurgitate, right? So those
Totally.
are those
And then
are
forget about it and then move on to the next thing.
exactly. So those are brain memories. So nothing bad about them. Although again, my third grade teacher was quite horrific. But we want to transition from brain memories, brain data, to creating a heart memory. And a heart memory is a different region. We have like three brains. We have got a gut brain, a brain, and this heart brain. And so we can learn to train our heart and create heart memories. This is a really good sign we're in the flow and we're incorporating that polyvagal theory and self-regulation that, again, we'll dive into a little bit deeper. So
Oh
creating
man,
heart
I'm
memories.
so okay. I want to like go in there a little bit more right now. And one, I just want to preface and say I'm so excited to have you on to talk about polyvagal theory and how to regulate our nervous system. Because just to back it up a little bit, I want to talk about how we came to being in each other's lives and how you became an important figure on my own trauma recovery journey. And I found you, for those who don't know, I found Dr. Yoder when I was 9 weeks pregnant. I had just moved up to North County. I was looking for a new chiropractor, and I'd spent a couple months searching for someone on Yelp reading reviews. And I wanted someone with a little bit of woo woo, someone with a little bit of magic, really looking for a healer, not just someone for like spinal alignment, but someone that could really support me because deep down, was feeling a calling that I needed to address deeper core wounds within my body, not just, the superficial muscles and our skeletal system. And I found you on Yelp and the reviews were just astounding. And I went to your website and you were talking about like brain yoga and trauma recovery. And I was like, this is my guy. So I just kind of want to open up and ask you, your first experience of me coming to you, because I was in a pretty rough place. I had a lot of anxiety with a surprise unplanned pregnancy in the middle of a divorce. We were in the middle of COVID, early into COVID, just a few months into COVID. And you've been along this ride for the last couple years. So I just want to open up and just ask how how was it how was it meeting me and like seeing me in that space and where I've become? And I'm not really sure how to ask that, but
Yep. No, that's a good question. So I take everything in context. So irregardless of where the person comes from, who they are, um, what they don't know, I try to really create a safe place so that you can just drop your guard and just be present with me because healing only happens in a safe place. And
mm-hmm,
so
mm-hmm.
I quickly listen to your story. I provide that space. More than half of my first visit is just listening. That's why we're given two ears and one mouth. We're supposed to listen twice as much as we talk.
Yes.
So I listened to your story and I just took notes. And then I said to myself, okay, wow, this person, she's on a big journey, and it actually compelled me to up my game to like really dig into my toolbox to see what I could do to provide and service as treatments beyond chiropractic because I could see that you wanted more, you needed more, and you're growing to a place that you weren't given the proper support to get there yet, and it was stressing you out. So when you bring your A game to my treatment room, then it brings out the best version of me. So by being your authentic self and not caring about judgment and just instantly trusting me, it allows me to be a better doctor for you because I know I can like talk to you, your core, your center, who you are as a person versus the outside peripheral story that is just judgment or the facade there. So you are a great patient. I love seeing you. I love your journey. I love seeing your involvement. I'm very proud of you.
Oh, thank you so much. Like I knew you had like a sense of woo woo, and I would go in and see you and we would go just so deep in our sessions of really emotional, and trauma is really where you encourage me to go like deeper within the body. And it really opened me up to where I was holding to the lack of safety that I truly had, like coming from off of The Bachelor and being in this public divorce. And there was so much judgment and so much, I was just so out there. And it created such a lack of safety in my life for me to even feel safe to explore the deeper core wounds within. And when I became pregnant, a huge wave of of inner child trauma just came up for me, which I believe being in that state of mind with that unresolved emotional energy really contributed to just the heaviness that I felt in the beginning of that pregnancy, along with, the nausea, the exhaustion. So all that really was a lot. And I have to say, looking back, it's something I was walking this morning and I'm like, I'm so proud that I sought out healers and professionals to support me and really like help light the way, because I believe trauma recovery is, we need those mentors in our lives who've been there and walked it to help guide us.
Yes, definitely. I mean, I have a little bit of a backstory as to maybe why I attract more female clients, powerful women who are struggling to find their identity and, climb the ladder of life and juggle the multitasking, jobs that you have to do between home, career, uh, spouse, self-care time. It's a busy day. And so my backstory is that my biological mom was also in a kind of busy, semi-traumatic state, and she gave me away for adoption. So as I landed here on Earth, so to say, I think part of why I have my awareness is that I was aware that the person who gave birth to me came from a stressful environment, a family that was unsupportive and kind of confused and lost, and she was looking for her identity. So you were there for your daughter's birth. I was there for my son's birth, and it's beautiful. I mean, seeing a birth is just a miracle. But I don't have recollection of my birth. I don't think my first memory started till I was about 2 years of age, when I'm in Bolivia with my adopted family, and I'm sitting outside in nature. I'm just loving nature, so I love nature. So I think I was in a also partly traumatized state there. Where's my biological mom? Who are these adopted people? Are they going to stay with me? So I think I was seeking safety, and I think I went from safety to being and healing around 2 when I started to have my first heart memory. So I am very supportive of females and moms, because you have such a big task to be the center of the wheel, to hold the place for your family and the next generation, our children that are going to be the future leaders. So you have a very, very big task. And yes, you do need a team. I mean, in Africa, I think the new moms, they have a group of women who comb their hair and massage them and check their tummy and sing to them. And you're like the center of this party, and you're just receiving so much love and support that having birth is like, I want to get pregnant again, because you're just like,
Yeah,
awesome.
that sounds wonderful.
Right. Yes. Like a Disney story versus here in America, we're like, uh, I gotta get pregnant. I gotta have my baby because I gotta get back to work, and like I don't know if my boss can support time off, and then of course all the stuff shows up because being a mom, it's the definition of busy has a new meaning of busy. I mean, it's you have
Absolutely.
to be there
Yes.
for your little one. So yeah, it's definitely a busy task. So I think there's a
I
reason
want
why
to
we
back.
met. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. Like soul guided, teacher student. I totally believe that. I want to go back to the heart memory. You talked about it too. I want you to dive in a little bit more with heart memories, because is it common to have memories prior to the age of 2?
It is possible. So circling back, so I knew that since I didn't have recollection of my birth, that was something that I knew I was going to be a parent one day, a father, and that I would love to be in the birth room and watch that experience and then kind of collapse it by being there for my child. So I kind of already imagined and knew, future projected, that I was going to be a parent and a father. So when we got pregnant, we wanted a very peaceful pregnancy. So yes, there's labor pain and it's painful, but you can create a birth environment where it can be very serene and as peaceful as possible for the mom and the child. So we created a birth room experience at Sharp Hospital. We told the nurse team, just take a break. If there's a medical emergency, you're there, but we don't plan on having any medical emergency. And so we brought our midwife in, and she didn't really have to do anything. She just recorded a PG-13 video, and it was just breathing and music and snack time and massage and adjustments. And when her water broke, 30 minutes later, Noah came out, and we had it all on video. And so obviously I have distinct memory as well as my wife. So I was curious, is it possible that my son Noah could have memory of his birth? So every birthday we would show him the birth video, but I wanted to know, does he have firsthand memory of it, or is he just recollecting what he saw in the video? So I asked some challenging questions. I said, okay, Noah, what color was it inside mommy's womb? And he said, red, orange. That's a good color. He didn't say like purple or like black and white. So that would be, orange, red, the color of the blood around the amniotic, fluid there in the womb. And I said, what were you doing? He said, I was floating. Okay, he didn't say he was running or walking or juggling or anything else. He was floating. That's pretty accurate. Then I said, do you remember when mommy pushed you out? And he says, yes, I was very excited to meet you guys. I could hear your voices. But when I came out and I saw you first, Daddy, so he didn't say he saw mommy first, because mommy was up there with her eyes closed, pushing and breathing, and I was down below ready to catch. So he's like, 0 for 3. He's doing really good now. And he says, but when I opened my eyes, you were blurry. And nobody's told him that baby's vision is blurry for a couple hours because everything is new. So all of that recollection definitely validates that he was so present, that he had a heart memory. What we all did, we were just like all tied together. It was quite a experience.
Wow, that's so amazing. So it really feels that, when the mother's energetic state in pregnancy is absolutely vital to child development, including heart memories.
Yes.
Can we talk more about ho- where do heart memories come from? How can we access them? And what is really stored within the heart?
Yeah. So going back to the importance of pregnant mothers, I think there's a survey done with women who gave birth in New York during 9/11. Some of them that saw the trauma and the building going down, and the ones that were pregnant, many of those babies were born with PTSD. So the womb does not filter out mom's memory from the child. It goes straight to the baby. So how could that be? So obviously the baby can feel the adrenaline rush, the rapid heart rate, the tension in the mother, and then the hormones running around, rather than, oxytocin, bonding, there's probably like a bunch of extreme cortisol and high adrenaline that baby's picking up on. So that's going to make the baby uncomfortable. And even though the baby doesn't have words, that doesn't negate what they're feeling. So feelings and emotions are our first human language, right? Makes sense. So like if you go up to a 2-year-old and you say, oh, you look so embarrassed, your cheeks are red. They don't understand the word embarrassment, but they know the feeling of being uncomfortable and the cheeks are all red there, and the tension, like everybody's looking at me like what just happened. So they don't have the word association, but it doesn't mean they don't understand it at their core. So we all come into the world as children with memories that are extremely emotional and feelings based. Then we are given the words to categorize them and make the association. This is what this feeling is. It's abandonment, it's trauma, it's fear, it's dread, it's judgment. So we build that vocabulary later on. But now we're getting into the headspace, because if we went to another society and we said, okay, what does embarrassment mean? Their context of embarrassment may be something different than an American context. So it really does vary. So I think that's why talk therapy can be very long and drawn out. Not that it's not impactful, but it's really for the headspace, and we're a whole person. We're a mind and we're body. So getting back to the long answer to your question, how do we create heart memories and what are those? So every moment we can have an awareness and a perspective of where we're coming from. So I know we're on this video Zoom call and my eyes are looking at myself and the camera and you there. So if my eyes are kind of crazy where they're looking at, I'm not a pro at this. I'm trying to connect to you. And so I'm drowning out everything else. I'm connecting to you, Krystal, who I know, and your heart center. So if I can convey that, then we are heart to heart present, and we're in the moment, and we can create a heart moment. So rather than just a bunch of data and like an interview. So we really can project that over distance, through time and space, to our children, our friends, our community. So it's a choice of where you set your attention to come from and where to receive from. Am I coming from reaction, judgment, or am I coming from my center, presence, quiet in my heart, or am I up here intellectualizing, trying to like debate you and intellectualize and throw data around? So there's always a choice if we're coming from our gut brain, our heart brain, or our brain brain. So heart memories are the domain of the heart center, where you're slowing down time, you're compressing it, where it's like time stands still. You just like, this moment is perfect. It could just go on for eternity. So aspects of heart memories are a sense of eternity, loss of time because you're not aware of like, okay, how much time actually passed. You're in joy. You're in equanimity where there's no judgment. It's just a very good place to be. And so then the memory can just imprint all the way down to the heart. And to take this one step farther, I know the validation of how extreme heart memories can be with the scientific phenomenon of heart transplant recipients. So I interviewed a patient who has the heart from another person. He has a genetic bad heart, and his doctor said, we could hook you up to a machine, but even with the machine, we can only give you maybe 6 more years of life. So unless we find a candidate for a new heart, you've got just 6 years left. So he's like, okay, I'm still young. I want to live as long as possible. So unfortunately, this other person dies in a traumatic event, and he gets his heart. Quicker than quick, he starts having different memories that are not his. And it's not like he met with the doctor or the family and said, give me everything you have on the memories of who this person was. He's just like acting different, like, okay, yeah, I'm still me, but like there's also something else in me, not just a physical heart, but like I'm yearning. And so like he started craving pizza. And even though he grew up in New York, he wasn't really into pizza, but now he just craves pizza. And then for some reason, he wants to spend a lot of time by the water. So it turns out his heart was from an African-American guy who also grew up in New York, who loved pizza and joined the Navy because of his love of water.
Wow.
And this is, I actually did this interview here in my office here, but there's a book, The Heart's Code, where like it gets really extreme. A South American boy that only speaks Spanish and has a vegan diet gets the heart from an old Jewish guy and starts speaking Jewish words and craving a Jewish meat-based diet. To a older woman who's like retired, gets the heart from a Hollywood stunt person and gets a Harley Davidson and is like a daredevil now. I mean, these aren't these are not subtle differences. These are extreme. So, and science doesn't know how to explain that because we have to entertain that science is just the left brain. And we have the right brain, the heart brain, and the gut brain that we're still learning about. And the polyvagal theory, somatic healing, Peter Levine, quantum physics, Deepak Chopra, New Age medicine, Reiki, tapping, Carolyn Mays, medical intuition, Eastern medicine, Ayurveda from India. I mean, they've been tapped into this more than the left brain, the right brain, the heart brain, and the body for centuries, so it's not new to them.
Wow. Can we go into polyvagal theory? What is it specifically? Yeah, we'll just start there. It's a loaded, big question.
Yeah, so I knew you were going to ask that question because I went back and I watched some of your past interviews, and you're very intrigued about it for your personal reasons. And when I first heard the word polyvagal theory, it's like, okay, that's like very technical. It's just very left brain. And even the explanation, ventral vagal, dorsal vagal, fused response, social engagement, we're going to have to spend some time there. So I wanted to have a revised version for you. Okay, Dr. Yoder.
Wonderful. One we can feel, right? Feel in our
Yes.
heart. Get
Okay.
out of the left brain.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
great.
Let's keep it simple, but also full circle it to not dilute or dishonor the polyvagal theory by Stephen Porges, but maybe make a different version for our audience here. And I actually got this download fresh off the press. I was excited for your interview, and so I went to bed, and I woke up, and my watch said 4 o'clock this morning, and that's the mystical yogi download time. So I knew the universe was sending me a
Wow.
download in preparation for helping you and your audience. So I got a download for you.
Wow. Oh my gosh, so honored to hold this space.
All right, so here we go. Here's the download. All right, so you're going to love this. So you've been on TV. You're professional. You were a professional actress, okay? So it's true that if you really get into the part, that sometimes it gets confusing as to what's reality versus what's imagination. Would you say that's true?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So an extreme example would be the crazy psychological thriller Silence of the Lamb. And Jodie Foster is a great actress. She was interviewed after the movie, and she revealed in preparation for the movie and the filming of the movie that she got so into character, she got mentally disturbed and had PTSD. And I was like, wow, A, she's a great actress. B, I had no idea that you could get so involved in the character that your brain doesn't separate reality versus imagination. So as we overlay this with polyvagal, the actress or the actor is the perspective of the being seen. Okay, so you're like the body. Okay, so we can look at our body and we see it. Okay, so you can have trauma happen to you, just like Jodie Foster had trauma by acting the part. You shared some stress and traumas that happened to you on The Bachelorette or The Bachelor. So trauma can get imprinted to the physical level as an actor-actress. Okay, if I'm the producer or the director, I'm watching you on the set. I'm saying, okay, stop, retake, do this, and I may see that you're really getting the character, and I'll feel some of your stress, but I don't think that I would actually take on trauma or stress. I may feel like bad that I put you through something stressful if I'm a decent person, but as I take a step back as the producer director of the actors and actresses, I'm less likely to get stressed and traumatized. Okay,
So
so
kind of being like the watchful observer.
exactly. So the mind, the brain, would be the director, the producer. Okay, so then if we take a step back from that and we're now the audience of the movie, the production is already set, and now we're just the audience. We go pay our ticket, we go to the movie theater, we have popcorn, we're just sitting back enjoying. So we can watch the movie and get really excited and like, oh my gosh, that was so real. I felt that. But nobody's ever going to get traumatized, young or old, new kid on the block, naive, doesn't matter. There's no way a movie is going to traumatize the mind or the body. You'll engage, you'll feel adrenaline, but there's no chance it's going to traumatize you. So as we step all the way back to the audience, the seeing, so again, the actor, actress is the seeing, the mind is the seer, and the audience is the seeing. So as we overlay that into polyvagal, poly is many, and vagal is it's called the vagus nerve because it's known in Latin as a long wandering nerve, so it goes all over. So my polyvagal theory is the body, the brain, and then the metabrain or metacognition. That is also known as the prefrontal cortex. Okay, so I know you're learning about the prefrontal cortex. So polyvagal to me is where do you put your attention? Where do you choose to learn and grow and play from? And are you even aware that you can choose to be in your body level, your brain level, or the metacognition prefrontal cortex level? They're all your choices. They're always available. And so if you have trauma imprinted in the body or in the mind, it's as easy as learning to access the prefrontal cortex and metacognition, and you instantly can dissolve it and neutralize it instantly. And I know this because of spontaneous healing remission phenomenon. People have an MRI, CAT scan, they're told they have 2 weeks to live, the cancer is going to kill you, you've got some kind of neurologic disturbance, you're going to need to be on this antidepressant for life. And so they're given that diagnostic, you know, jail sentence there. And so if you believe that that movie is reality, then again, the mind doesn't know the difference between imagination versus reality, so you just keep repeating the same vicious loop there. But if you can take a step back to the prefrontal cortex, metacognition, the audience, and say, no, that is just a perspective, and I can choose a different perspective, that's the key ingredient to spontaneous healing of trauma. So that is the full Dr. Yoder polyvagal update that gets rid of the terms dorsal vagal, ventral vagal, free social engagement, as I look at things there. So we have, again, the body is visceral. It's very easy to connect to the body. The mind takes a little bit more effort to get up into the mind, but to get into that metacognition, prefrontal cortex, that requires some training. It is very hard to learn to quiet the mind to meditate. If I say, Krystal, don't think about a purple cow, don't do it, don't think about a purple cow, don't do it.
I did.
Yes, so
I
it
did,
doesn't
yeah.
work when we tell the brain, don't think about it. We have to focus on the intention.
So I read that the brain doesn't understand negative statements. So when we say don't think about the purple cow, our brain doesn't understand like the double negatives, like to not do something. We just say purple cow.
Yes,
Like look at the purple cow, right? So it really is like when people are thinking about, when I like really got into like NLP, neuro linguistic programming, and understanding like what do I want, like what are focusing on what I want rather than what I don't want.
so the polyvagal theory is very complex, and we want to. You're talking about to focus on what you want versus what you don't want, and the double negative thinking of the brain.
Thank you. Yes. Okay. So to bring it all back to The Bachelor, because everyone follows has is most people I think listening here are familiar with my history on The Bachelor and being villainized the first time around. And I remember going into The Bachelor and just thinking, "Don't be the villain. Don't be the villain. Don't be the villain." Like that was my full focus. And like now what I understand is like all my attention was on villain, 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 villain. I was hypersensitive, hyper aware, and like guess what? My outcome ended up being is villain. And
Mm-hmm.
I think so much back to that of like, wow, it really is the power of like focusing on what we want. And I think if we have a hard time even thinking like, what kind of relationship do I want? How do I want to be showing up in partnerships, in my business, with my family? What kind of love do I want to receive? A place we can start is like what we don't want, but there's a really clear distinction and a lot of power behind like our thinking brain and how it relates to our nervous system, and understanding like really shifting the focus on what we want and where we're really putting our thoughts, that is very powerful. And I learned that firsthand, not in the best experience, but I will say like, bringing that back to, polyvagal theory and understanding our relationship with that is, when we're in a sense of like Jodie Foster, like when we're in it, when we're lacking safety, when we're not even knowing, with me on Bachelor, when I was going to eat, what time I was going to bed, if I was going to be sent home. I had zero sense of safety and foundation and trust. And so being in a hypersensitive environment, I'm shifting into a completely dysregulated nervous system. And from being in a dysregulated nervous system, we know we respond to situations completely different than if we were to be creating a happy heart memory, if we were to be in a safe, energetic space. And that is what has made me so passionate about understanding our nervous system, understanding the polyvagal theory, and how we can regulate our nervous system through activating the vagus nerve. And I know that is something that I want to dive into now because you really were a strong advocate for me as I was really beginning, this journey of creating safety. You were such like an advocate for me to get into my body, hands on my heart, addressing my chakras, singing bowls and chanting and just like getting me in my body Um, and we really dove into the vagus nerve. So, can you please share with us, like, what is the vagus nerve and how can we use it to regulate and create safety in our body?
Yep. Let me circle back a little bit because you shared a lot there, being on the Bachelor and being this place of seeking safety and not knowing what's going to happen the next moment. So
Mm-hmm.
it's been said that in a state of playfulness, the brain learns like 200 times faster if you can be in a state of
Wow.
play, not in a state of seeking or like, what the heck is going on? Where's my next lunch? Who's going to like judge me? So if we're in a state of stress where we're in a seeking state, so that indicates that we're up in the brain space, we're like seeking for the exit or the safety. So that, that's part of the polyvagal theory. We left our body, we're now seeking for the exit, okay, safety. So how do we return or shift slightly from seeking? So I would say a slight shift from seeking is to be curious.
Yes, absolutely.
Because what are children? They're ever so
Curious.
curious. They just
Yes.
like get into everything. They want to learn and grow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and they're doing it in a playful attitude. They don't mean to knock over the milk or this. They're just curious. They don't know cause and effect. They have to have so many examples to like experience the world, and then they're watching to see how you respond to what they just did. Are you supportive of continuing to play? Or are you now judging me or saying, don't spill the milk, that double negative again.
Right.
So, um,
Yes. Right. Spill the milk is what they're hearing.
yes, exactly. So we want to shift from seeking to being curious and playful. And if we can shift to
Yes.
being curious and playful, then we're back to a learning state. And in learning, we grow and we also heal. So
Mm.
little shifts from seeking to curious, playful, and then we're back to learning where we can evolve and grow and heal. So polyvagal's been around a long time. I think if you Wikipedia Stephen Porges, my mom's a clinical psychologist. She studied his work way back when she was in grad school. So we're talking, 40, 50 years ago. So it's been around a long time. So he was quite a pioneer for developing this concept of the many roles of the vagus system. Again, polyvagal, poly many, vagal, the long wandering system. His approach was a psychological approach of the uh, ventral state. You're in your belly. So when you're in your belly, you're resting and digesting. You're socially engaged. You're happy, like the Buddha belly. So you're just happy. You're eating. You're just socially engaged. You're playful. Then if you think about like somebody stabbing you in the back, you're like, oh, those backstabbers, nobody's got my back. We switch to the opposite side, the dorsal vagal, where you're now in the fight or flight response. So it's like the bear's chasing me, people are attacking me. I gotta toughen my back. I gotta tense my muscles. So you're in dorsal vagal. So you're in adrenaline, stress rate, and and actually you're still learning, but what you're learning is what not to do. Like don't trust this, don't trust this. So you're learning in a different context. So you're learning all the negative things about the universe. So it's like the glass is now half empty versus half full. So it's important to realize that you can learn from the belly and the ventral vagal. You can learn from dorsal vagal. And the next level is freeze response, where you've checked out, you're no longer in the brain, and you're just literally like the deer in the headlights. You're just like frozen, and so
Yeah.
you're really
Complete
stupefied.
dissociation.
Yeah. So you complete.
Yeah. And when we're okay, I want to talk about that a little more because, this morning when I was walking, like I was having like thinking about this podcast and like what we want to talk about. And like what came up for me was moments of dissociation when I was on Bachelor of things that were happening. And I think that, as people like watch The Bachelor and they see, these things where there was this one instance where I went up to this girl and she was really upset with me and like freaked out, and it's known as the mic drop moment. And you see me, I'm just like sitting there talking with her, watching her lose her shit, and I'm completely dissociated out of my body. Like I completely left, and I almost in a sense like floated up, and I could see all the cameras, all this the producers, like everyone beginning to circle and film. And I'm seeing like, oh my God, this I'm seeing how this is gonna play out on national television. And I wasn't even there in my body. And so like when we see people as like viewers of the show, we like laugh and we make fun of these like responses, but what's really happening is like a trauma response of dissociation, where that person, like, it's so unsafe in their body, they literally leave to survive.
Hmm.
And you know, I've talked with a lot of people, and I found it with myself. There's like parts of my childhood that are complete blackouts. Like, I don't remember anything. And what I've come to learn and understand is that when we're in these trauma responses, when we're in a dysregulated nervous system, when we're in that fight, that flight, that freeze response, our body goes into survival. And the first thing that goes is digestion and creativity, memories. So it's like, if we find, we look back and with, curiosity and compassion and, an understanding of like, wow, of course I wasn't creating memories. Like, I was surviving. And yeah, it's was really powerful stuff that like I'm learning to unpack, and like, it's a journey that I'm on, but it's really profound awareness into like the inner workings of what people are going through.
Yeah, I think it's actually a safety mechanism of the deepest part of our nature, our spirit or soul, whatever you want to identify it as, that says, okay, I can't process any more information. This is not safe anymore. I need to go to a
Mhm.
safer place. And so, like, you literally like go to heaven for a second there, or go somewhere else out of the body. And so then the body is no longer connected. And that's why, the stomach, digestion, memories, they just all get wacky. They don't work because you really disconnected. Um, but I think it's a protective mechanism, because another version of this is multiple personality disorder. And in the beginning, they thought people were just making up crazy things, like actors, actresses. They can be really good and kind of fake the audience. But then a book, Molecules of Emotion by Dr. Candace Pert. She was a psychoneuroimmunologist, so talk about academic journey. So she objectified that when people were in their multiple personality disorder alternates, they weren't making up through immunology lab testing. So, for example, let's say I have two versions of David. Okay, so if I get stung by a bee in David A, I'll have a reaction. So if I get stung by a bee in David B, I should have the same reaction, right? Because it's the same immune system. Well, in these altered personalities, they had different reactions. You can't
Wow, same
make that up
person.
there. Same person, but different immune systems, because the psyche split to have one David that could deal with the stuff, and another David that says, okay, this is beyond normal. I have to disassociate. I have to make an altered version of David that can, go somewhere else to be protected there. So I think the most famous one was Sybil. She had like 16 personalities. Uh,
Wow.
yeah. So yes, we can literally disassociate and leave our bodies, or if we are still here physically, we create an altered version of ourselves, but the memories get disassociated, disconnected. In the animal kingdom, what they do is the animals have a seizure. They shake like a
Mm.
seizure for a few minutes, and then it resets their vagus nerve system. It's like they've done all the vagus nerve exercises, like super quick there, and they're good to go. Like, okay, la di da di da, back to normal. Like, uh, you know, I'm back to present there. So if we're at our job, uh, we hold it in, so we can't run away from the set and say, okay, this is too much, I'm just leaving. You're not going to punch somebody on the set there, and you're
Mhm.
not going to lie down and have a seizure and play dead there. Those are all inappropriate, responses there. But we hold all the tension, and so it just gets really deeply ingrained in our body, our gut, our mind, and we have physical ailments that arise from that there. So we need to learn how to be okay that we have tools and options, and it's okay to feel afraid, and just know that, okay, this shall pass. It's not going to be forever. So just like identify the feeling, validate it, and do some breathing as best you can. But just know that this will pass, and when you pass and get to the next place, try to objectify it and look at it from a different perspective, so you don't recreate a lasting, permanent memory that gets hypersensitized and re-triggered every time you see like the red car or something. So I think they're actually updating PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, to PT, post-traumatic stress memory, because it's not a disorder. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just how you're choosing to see the memory, which is helpful. It's like, okay, yeah, we can all become a better version if we choose a different perspective.
You know, I want to ask you your opinion. Do you feel that mental illnesses are overdiagnosed as opposed to, people having traumatic experiences and that trauma affecting them?
Yeah, I think as the conversation expands and we have different updates to connect people with how they see their trauma, that is not just psychological, not just somatic, it's more polyvagal, that this re-education will help people identify and then share their stories, and this will help everybody to heal. So yeah, we want to have a holistic approach. So yeah, there's not one way. There's many ways. So we have to find what works for us. But our reality is our reality. So what you see, what you feel is for you. What I see is for me. We have to honor that we're all individuals. There's no bell curve where we're above the average or below the average. We are our unique creation from God. We're here on our journey, and we're meant to make it the greatest journey and build the greatest team and help each other. Another African proverb I love is if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So we're all in this
Mm-hmm.
together. So yeah, let's expand the conversation. We're here on the podcast today. We're doing it right now. We're sharing with each other, and this will be viewed. So if you're watching this, re-listen to it, share it with somebody else who needs help there, because there's more than one way to help people, but we need to ask better questions and then learn how to get on our healing journey and build our team.
Yeah, that actually brings me to, if someone who's listening to this podcast right now is, wanting to begin their healing journey, where would you recommend that they begin? Where that first step for them to take?
Yep. So again, I would say, A, realize that how you see things now is just it's steps on the ladder. So it's honor where you're at. Don't beat yourself up. Don't shame yourself. Just say, okay, this is
Curiosity, right?
yes. Have
Curiosity is the
curiosity. This is where
compassion.
I'm at, and where can we play and initiate some fun and grow and learn. So just reach out and trust that if you start asking questions, that people will show up and answers will show up. I can't tell you how many times where I didn't have a certain answer, but I just trusted in God, the universe, or that the world is here to help me versus hurt me. Again, that's my
Yes.
personal choice, and then I wait patiently. Things happen. I mean, I can tell you multiple stories of things that defy the odds. Again, whether me finding my biological mom in Thailand, to my son's birth, to opening up my practice here in San Diego, to the different people that come into my practice. I mean, I do zero advertising. It's just all word of mouth, and I have a very blessed, healthy practice of many strong people, but they're all in different levels of the healing journey. So I meet people where they're at. So if you're that person, you're feeling intimidated, just start somewhere. But basically, I would say appreciate yourself, that you want something better for yourself, that you deserve something better, because from that place, then you deserve the therapist or to be able to pay for that service because you are worth it. So just pat yourself on the back. You know, everybody's had a long day, but if you want to stay on the road and evolve yourself, just give yourself some grace, some appreciation, and respect yourself, love yourself, and create the space, and the people will show up, because they nobody can help somebody who doesn't want to help themselves. So they have to want to help. So just show up for yourself, and people will then show up for you.
Amen. That is so well said. And I think that completely ties it all together of how we came into each other's lives. I was curious. There was something within me that was knowing I needed support and someone to go just a little deeper as I was beginning to go through, my trauma recovery and my healing. And that's how I found you. I focus on the feeling of what was feeling good and did my work, read reviews, and, like you came into my life and have been a big encourager of for me to go much deeper and change my just perception of how I was experiencing things. And you were really the one that made me aware of creating the safety in my body, because I didn't realize that, being on The Bachelor, the trauma that really came from that experience that I had pushed down and move forward to survive, right? And a lot of that was just very unprocessed. And when I became pregnant and was going through the divorce, and everything was just really bubbling up to the surface for me to address. And at first, it was very overwhelming. It was just too much for me to handle. It was dysregulating my nervous system, right? But being able to have safe spaces like your clinic to come and have just little snippets, little drops of recovery
Mhm.
built up the confidence for me to keep going.
Yeah, it's just a new kid on the playground in school. You don't want to overwhelm them. You just hold their hand, show them something to play with, and just watch where their curiosity leads them. And if you see they're a quick learner and they're ready for the next thing, then you meet them. But you don't want to overwhelm somebody in trauma. So yeah, we go at our own pace and we watch. Like, okay, I think I've digested that. I'm ready for the next meal. So great, let's
Mm-hmm.
get fancy. Let's expand. Let's go deeper. So, but again, honoring where you're at. So some days you can go fast. Some days you need to like self-care day. You just need to
Mm-hmm.
go to a bubble bath or go to the beach or just get away from everybody, or I just need to like laugh really hard or watch something silly stupid, just trust the gut, that raw instinct of the root chakra, the beginning of the vagus nerve system. It starts in the gut, so trust that gut intuition. Like sometimes it doesn't make sense. It's just that you can't explain to anybody, but it just feels right for you. So we all need to trust our instinct, trust our gut.
Yeah, that is so true. Oh my gosh. Well, Dr. Yoder, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I so enjoy being a part of each other's lives, you being a wonderful teacher and mentor on my trauma recovery and healing journey. And I'm sure our listeners are dying to know where they can find you and how can they work with you. Can you let us know? And we'll be sure to include any links below in the show notes if you guys go ahead and click there.
Thank you, Crystal. It's been an honor. I love helping people on their journey. I'm very passionate about a couple of quotes. Stephen Covey, give a person a fish to eat for a day, teach them how to fish, they now eat for a lifetime. And Maya Angelou, people might forget what you said and what you did, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. So from
Mm-hmm.
my heart to
So
your
true.
heart, to our audience, thank you. I appreciate you. Uh, you make me a better doctor by being authentic and showing up and wanting more for yourself in your life. And it inspires me like, okay, yeah, this isn't just chiropractic. I'm in somebody's life and they've asked me to help them. And that's like a serious task. So I really, care for you guys. I think about you guys. I share in your successes. I congratulate you. And yeah, there's more to do and more people to serve. So thank you. The easiest way to get a hold of me is my website is davidyoderwellness.com, and on there it has all the links there. And I am available, obviously, if you're in San Diego. Um, I am expanding telemedicine services as polyvagal theory is very popular. Everybody's talking about the vagus nerve, and we do have a program that can help people if they want more support with the vagus nerve uh, reset program that I kind of put together. Or that can be another podcast later on.
Oh my God, another podcast. Definitely. All right. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Yoder. I can't wait to have you back on for another episode. And thank you guys so much for listening to this week. I will catch you next time and go have an amazing week and reign over your lives.
Thank you.
Bye.